But elementary school was nothing compared to high school. By the time I started high school, I was 120 kilos. My mother didn't see anything wrong with it. If anything, she seemed proud, as if my weight validated her own.
At least you'll never be prettier than me.
High school was a battlefield, and I was the favorite target. Every day was a new form of torment. In the hallways, boys would bump into me on purpose, acting like they had hit a wall.
Whoa, watch out everybody. Celine's taking up the whole hallway.
The girls weren't any kinder. They would snicker behind their hands or take pictures of me when I wasn't looking, posting them online with cruel captions like #whale watching, #big please. Gym class was the worst. The teacher would always make us run laps, and I'd struggle to keep up, gasping for air while everyone else sprinted ahead.
Come on, Celine, you're slowing us down.
The teacher didn't help.
You need to push yourself harder, Celine. Maybe if you ran more, you'd lose some weight.
I hated gym class. I hated the locker room even more. Changing in front of the other girls was humiliating. They would point and laugh, making cruel comments about my body.
I didn't know they made bras that big.
When I was little, I wasn't fat. In fact, I was the picture of normalcy, bright-eyed, playful, and energetic. My mother used to be a model and earned a lot of money before getting pregnant with me. Unfortunately, she and my father weren't married, and he left her during the pregnancy, claiming she was getting too fat. She was furious and began hating me even before I was born. She believed I had taken away her chance of becoming a superstar. Ever since giving birth to me, my mom tried everything she could to lose weight, but all her efforts were in vain. This led to her frustration, and she came to resent me because of it.
I wouldn't be like this if I hadn't had you.
Those words became her mantra. At first, I didn't understand what she meant, but as I got older, the blame became more explicit.
Do you know what pregnancy does to a woman's body? Do you know how hard it is to lose weight after having a child?
She blamed me for being the cause of her excess weight. The worst part was when she began fattening me up too. She disguised her resentment as care. She began feeding me enormous portions of food, constantly insisting I needed to eat more.
You're a growing girl. You need your strength.
But it wasn't just the portions. She started giving me these strange supplements, telling me they would make me healthy. I didn't know then that they were appetite stimulants. All I knew was that I was always hungry, always eating, and always gaining weight. By the time I was in elementary school, I was heavier than all my classmates. At first, the teasing was mild, just whispers and giggles when I walk by. But as I got older and bigger, the cruelty intensified.
Hey, Celine, are you hiding snacks in your backpack?
The group burst into laughter. I always tried to ignore them, but it was hard when they followed me everywhere, mimicking the way I walked or pretending to wobble like they were carrying an imaginary weight. Lunch was the worst. I could feel their eyes on me as I ate, judging every bite I took.
Do you ever stop eating? No wonder you're so fat.
I wanted to disappear. I learned to eat quickly, shoveling food into my mouth so I could leave the cafeteria before the insults started. But elementary school was nothing compared to high school. By the time I started high school, I was 120 kilos. My mother didn't see anything wrong with it. If anything, she seemed proud, as if my weight validated her own.
At least you'll never be prettier than me.
High school was a battlefield, and I was the favorite target. Every day was a new form of torment. In the hallways, boys would bump into me on purpose, acting like they had hit a wall.
Whoa, watch out everybody. Celine's taking up the whole hallway.
The girls weren't any kinder. They would snicker behind their hands or take pictures of me when I wasn't looking, posting them online with cruel captions like #whale watching, #big please. Gym class was the worst. The teacher would always make us run laps, and I'd struggle to keep up, gasping for air while everyone else sprinted ahead.
Come on, Celine, you're slowing us down.
The teacher didn't help.
You need to push yourself harder, Celine. Maybe if you ran more, you'd lose some weight.
I hated gym class. I hated the locker room even more. Changing in front of the other girls was humiliating. They would point and laugh, making cruel comments about my body.
I didn't know they made bras that big.
On gym days, by the time lunch rolled around, I would already be exhausted. But skipping lunch wasn't an option. My mother packed my meals, and they were always massive. She insisted I eat every bite, even if it meant enduring the stares and whispers.
She's eating for two, herself and her shadow.
The bullying wasn't just verbal. One day, I found my locker filled with garbage. Someone had written "pig pen" on the door in permanent marker. I reported it to the school counselor, but nothing changed. If anything, it got worse.
Did the fat girl cry to the teacher?
Even teachers weren't always sympathetic. During a science project, we had to pair up, but no one wanted to work with me.
Come on, someone pair up with Celine. She's not contagious.
The class erupted into laughter. I was so embarrassed that I sat there wishing I could vanish. Home was no better. My mother's resentment had only grown over the years. She didn't hit me, but I'd have preferred if she did, because her words hurt more.
No one's ever going to love you looking like that. You're lucky you have me.
But she wasn't there for me. She was the one who made me this way, yet she acted like I was some kind of burden she had to bear. When I tried to eat less, she'd force food on me.
Don't waste my money. Finish your plate.
She controlled every aspect of my life, making sure I never forgot that I was the reason for her unhappiness.
If I hadn't had you, I'd still be beautiful.
By sophomore year, I started avoiding school whenever I could. I'd fake being sick just to stay home, even if it meant enduring my mother's scorn.
You're so lazy. No wonder everyone hates you.
I spent most of my time in my room, hiding from the world. But even there, I couldn't escape the weight of everything. The insults, the isolation, the constant feeling of not being enough. One day, after a particularly brutal gym class, I came home and locked myself in the bathroom. I stared at my reflection, hating what I saw. I didn't just hate my body, I hated myself. I knew I had to do something, but I had no idea what to do or where to even start from. When I walked out of high school with my diploma in hand, it didn't feel like a victory. It felt like an escape. The weight of years of torment hung over me, but I knew one thing. I couldn't stay. Not in that house. Not with my mother. That night, I did something I never thought I'd have the courage to do. While my mother snored in the next room, I crept into her purse and stole every bill I could find. It wasn't much, but it was enough to get me away. The first month on the streets was brutal. I stayed in cheap motels when I could and slept on park benches when I couldn't. I stretched every dollar as far as it would go, eating just enough to survive. One evening, as I sat on a bench, hungry and exhausted, a man approached me. He was older, maybe in his late 40s, with kind eyes and a warm smile. He said I looked like I could use some help and offered to help me. I hesitated, unsure if I could trust him, but desperation overrode my fear. I told him my story without him even asking. The bullying, the abuse, everything. Instead of pitying me, he looked angry and somewhat determined.
You've been through hell, but you're still here. Let me help you.
He gave me a place to stay and became the first person in my life to believe in me. He told me he was going to help with my transformation. We started small, walk around the block, cutting out junk food. Then came gym sessions, meal plans, and therapy. It wasn't easy. There were days when I wanted to give up, when the voice in my head, the one my mother planted there, told me I was worthless. But every time I faltered, he was there to push me forward.
You're stronger than you think, Celine. Don't give up now.
After a year, I hardly recognized myself. The weight I'd carried, both physically and emotionally, was all gone. My reflection in the mirror showed a confident, beautiful woman. I couldn't believe my new look. A few months later, the man wanted me to move abroad with him, to start fresh in a new country. But I couldn't. Not yet. There was unfinished business to take care of. I sued my mother for years of abuse, for the torment she had inflicted on me. I didn't let her see me until we faced each other in court. She was shocked to her bones. She hadn't seen me in over a year, and the transformation left her speechless. She cried and begged for forgiveness.
I'm sorry. I didn't know what I was doing. Please, Celine, I'm your mother.
But her apologies meant nothing. You're not my mother. A mother would never do the things you did to their own child. You're my tormentor, and now you'll pay for it. She was convicted of child abuse and sentenced to prison. As I walked out of the courtroom, I felt lighter than ever. Moving to a new country was like stepping into another world. I continued working on my body, pushing myself to new limits. One day, I started an Instagram account to document my journey. 2 months later, a modeling agency reached out, saying they loved my body and I had potential. When I officially began modeling for them, a month later, I couldn't believe it. At the same time, I enrolled in college to study medicine. By the time I graduated, I was juggling 2 careers, a model in high demand and a doctor saving lives. When I was invited back to my birth country to assist with 3 critical cases at the biggest hospital, I took 2 weeks off modeling. The moment I stepped off the plane, I was greeted by a sea of familiar faces. My old classmates stood there, holding signs and cheering as if they had always been my biggest supporters.
Celine, you look amazing.
I couldn't believe my eyes. There were so many cameras there, so I decided to get back at them. I raised my voice so everyone could hear. You bullied me for years, called me names, made me feel worthless. Now you want to celebrate with me? No, thank you. Kindly stay as far as possible away from me. I do not need your fake love. The cameras captured everything. One by one, they lowered their signs and rushed away in shame. At the hospital, I focused on my work. I needed to save lives. But when I reviewed the files for my next patient after the first one, I was shocked. It was her. My mother. She had become morbidly obese, riddled with health problems, and stuck to a wheelchair. The prison doctors couldn't handle her condition, so she had been transferred here. When I entered the room, her eyes widened in recognition.
Celine, my baby.
She was crying, but I didn't care. I knew exactly how to treat her, but I didn't. Not right away. I delayed her treatment for 3 days, watching as her condition worsened. By the time I finally acted, it was too late. She'd gone beyond what anyone could save. When I returned abroad, I received the news that she had died. I didn't cry. I didn't feel sad. She deserved it. As for my classmates, news about what I said to them spread, and soon it was their turn to be bullied by the media. They were getting the worst of it. I shared a video I had made of them bullying me years ago, and the media went wild. They went after each and every friend who had taken part in bullying me. Some had to move to a different state, while others deleted their social media accounts. It didn't take long before I started seeing my classmates being harassed online. Some were labeled fake friends, and they had to set their accounts to private to avoid all the insults they were receiving. I couldn't be happier. All those who hurt me got what they deserved.